can you confirm a gluten sensitivity without testing? And the simple answer is yes and no. And let me clarify. So yes, in the sense where you go on let's just say you go on an elimination diet, cut grain out of your diet, and you can do that. My advice, if you're going to try to do it this way, it doesn't cost you anything except a diet change. Minimum 3 months. And the reason why it takes 3 months for the most part to get the current gluten that's in your system out of your system. So if you go on an elimination diet for a week or 2 weeks or even 4 weeks, you may not notice much of a difference or a change because you're still reacting to gluten that you had already been eating. So you really got to go, if you're going to do an elimination, go minimum 3 months, ideally though 6 months. Because by the time all the antibodies are out of your system, this is about the length of time that actually takes. The half-life of gluten antibodies is, in some cases, is up to 90 days, which is 3 months. But many people with gluten sensitivity will start to feel better in that 3-month time range, although some, it can take longer. So you can confirm that, sort of, right? So if you eliminate gluten and grains for that period of time and you feel better, there's kind of a confirmation in that you've cut out a food, your body is saying, hey, I feel better, and that feedback can be very valuable for you. It doesn't tell you though why you feel better, it just tells you that you feel better. And so there are a lot of reasons why eliminating gluten and grain might help a person feel better. And as I showed you earlier, there are those non-gluten aspects to grain, like the mold and the pesticides and the mycotoxins and the heavy metals. And so some people would feel better on an elimination diet like this, not necessarily because of gluten, but maybe because of those other things. And so that's where the answer is no. Like you can not test, you can do an elimination diet, you might feel better, but it's not really technically confirming whether or not gluten was causing your problem in the first place. It could have been those other things. So that's why the answer is yes and no. Now, if you really want to know whether or not you're gluten sensitive, in my opinion, the best way to determine that is to understand whether you have those genetic predisposition genes that I've talked about earlier. Glutenfreesociety.org, genetic testing. You can go learn more about those genetic predisposition genes there. Now, what you can also do, is you can go to Gluten Free Society and you can take our quiz. Now, this quiz is just going to ask you some questions. You can see the examples of those questions here, but you're in the right place if you see that Gluten Free Society logo. But you can take our free quiz. There's no charge to do this, and this is going to give you an idea of whether or not you might be gluten sensitive. But again, the fundamental flaw in the quiz or the elimination diet is it's not, they're not definitive, whereas genetic testing is going to be definitive. You have those gene predispositions, you're going to react to gluten. Now, it may happen sooner or later, but you're going to have that predisposition. So in my opinion, that's the best way to confirm with a degree of certainty.